Oh my God, I'm so excited. I want to burst. Like, if you are a woman over 35, or if you know a woman over 35, this is like a must. Like, you must listen to this. This conversation is so missing from the world. I am just like so mind blown right now. And it's about hormones and it's about our nervous system and what happens to women in perimenopause and menopause. This was so validating for me. Like, I can't even tell you. It's all about how basically we don't tolerate bullshit anymore. And that's hard and that's easy at the same time. Like, oh my God, I am not joking when I tell you, like, this is one of the most validating conversations I've ever had. It just like clicked everything for me that I've been going through for so long. And it's just going to blow your mind. So please listen. This is a little anti-patriarchy moment right now for all of us to listen to this and like honor women and honor our journeys. So good. So good. Okay, let's go. Welcome to Deep Within. On this show, we dive deep into the nervous system, emotional healing, and transformation from within the body. When I started my personal development journey, it was all in the mind, doing affirmations, visualizations, listening to endless motivational videos. And I found that this approach, without actually getting my body on board, only left me in deeper shame and distress. So this is actually how I discovered somatic body-based healing. My name is Marina Yanai Trainer, and I am the Compassionate Somatic Coach. I am gentle, sensitive, and I love deep conversations. I'm so excited and so glad you're here so we can feel like we're together in our own little bubble of deep talks. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to see your face. And let's start with you sharing a little bit about yourself and your practice, what you do in the world.
Absolutely. So my name's Natasha Zajmalowskii. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm also a Menopause Society certified practitioner. I've been in practice. It'll be 24 years this fall.
Wow.
Yeah, my clinic is called Proactive Healthcare. I'm in the Windsor, Ontario, Canada area. And I have a real special interest in perimenopause, menopause, and neuroscience. And I've created a framework called Metamorphosis, which is one of the things I hope we get to chat about today.
I hope so too. And we've had a conversation already about this, and you just blew my mind, like the connection between the nervous system and our hormones, essentially. So I'm really excited for people to hear about this. How did you find my work and what drew you to somatics?
Well, I found you the way most of us find things now, which is the algorithm. And I was in burnout and I was looking for somatics. And I found one of your master classes, which I really enjoyed and I was really drawn to because of your vulnerability and your gentleness. And there was just elements to your story that I could really relate to. And then from there, I joined your community program, and then now I'm in your group program. So
I
it's
love
gratuitous.
Totally. And what about somatics? Like, what about it drew you?
Well, it's interesting because like I said, I was in burnout, sort of also known as that dorsal shutdown freeze state. And I recognized it was from a combination of things, but it was primarily fueled by perimenopause. And I just found a lot of old emotions and old wounds and issues were really surfacing and destabilizing me. And I just knew enough about emotions to understand that you have to feel to heal. And I've always loved the concept of emotional metabolism, which suggests that each emotion creates this vital energy that we can access when we metabolize it. So just like physiological metabolism, which converts food to energy, emotional metabolism kind of converts emotions into energy. And the irony is that it takes a lot of energy to suppress emotions. And I just knew I was suffering more than I needed to. And I wasn't processing what was there. And yeah, it was at that point that I realized that the intersection between these hormonal transitions and somatics is one of the most useful but underexplored areas in women's health right now.
Wow, it's so powerful. So I remember you told me a while ago when we chatted that basically menopause and perimenopause, like all these hormonal changes for women, bring up a lot of emotions, and then that leads to burnout. And that's so fascinating. Can you walk us through that, and especially through your own like personal experience and your clients? Like how is that all connected?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happens is because of the dynamic changes that are occurring in this hormonal transition, um, these emotions really come to the surface. And, working with somatics, it hasn't created an absence of my strong emotions because they certainly still arrive, but it's given me tools and strategies for when they do. And that's a lot of also what I'm sharing with my patients. Because honestly, a dysregulated nervous system cannot really hold health. Like it affects every system, your gut health, your cardiovascular system, your inflammation, all of that. And so, working with you personally, like it normalized what I was going through. And when someone who understands the nervous system says to you, like, this makes sense, it's what's supposed to happen, it just changes the relationship with the experience. And yeah, so like working with you really created a safe space for me. And especially like the real time practicing and the building of the skills, which was just a really practical approach to work with it all, which is what I needed. And it's now what I'm also really promoting to my patients as well.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Can you tell me more about kind of like your favorite parts of our work together? Like things you remember, moments, the practices, like what about it was helpful?
I would say what's worked definitely the best for me is the real time in the moment strategies. So just based on the way my brain works, I find it harder to like imagine a situation or imagine an emotion. But what I loved about a lot of the practices we did was again, it was like in real time. So, and that builds confidence and it builds skill. And so now when something, surfaces and sort of takes over and floods me, I immediately, almost without thinking, can go into these practices. And like if someone followed me around all day, I'm just like constantly booing. I'm like always I do a lot of vocalization. I find that helps immensely. So whether it's the humming, and then I do a lot of the breath work. And so yeah, just practicing and with you doing those has really made a profound difference.
I love that so much. And I often think about like myself, the person I was before and now. It's like some people will think she's a little crazy. Like not crazy, but like the shift is so profound in how we show up to situations. It's not like situations have changed. Like things still come at us, right? But it's like I love what you're saying because it's exactly how I feel. Like when you have those skills, you just show up so differently. So this makes me really happy. Thank you for sharing. And where is your burnout at now, would you say?
It's significantly better. The shift that I've seen in the last 2 years is, I feel honestly truly the best I've ever felt in my life right now in a like physical sense, but way more importantly, just in that kind of mental, sort of spiritual sense as well. So, and I really attribute a lot of it just to the practices. Because I mean, I know a lot about the rest, and this was definitely the missing part for me.
So beautiful. And you said that your approach is called Is it metamorphosis?
That's right.
Yes, about that. I'm in Costa Rica and I see the morphos, the butterflies, like a lot, and they're so beautiful. And funny enough, my friend was like, "We need to name your car because it's always breaking down. So we need to give it some good like vibes, some good energy." And it's blue, so she's like, "Let's call it Morpho."
I love that. Oh my.
So now when I'm in my car, I'll be thinking of you. So tell us about that.
So metamorphosis is a metaphor that I use to explain the transformation that women experience when they move through perimenopause to menopause. So I think of perimenopause like the chrysalis stage, which is where so many of the dynamic changes really start to occur. And it's really a true dissolution of the self. And like the caterpillar, the old structure really has to come apart before the new one is built. And then menopause is when we become butterflies. We unfold our wings, display these beautiful, vibrant colors, and then we begin to fly, which is when our perspective really expands. And we have this opportunity to redefine our values, redefine who we are, and then we pollinate the world with our wisdom. And I completely, understand and appreciate that there's this inherent struggle in the transformation from chrysalis to butterfly. I feel that. But it is that inherent struggle that really ultimately strengthens the butterfly's wings. And so then we can transform, and not just ourselves, but the world around us. So I just love the metamorphosis metaphor.
That's so beautiful. I have to ask you, so many people, including myself, have like a lot of negative conceptions about both perimenopause and menopause. Like it's scary, it's different. What do we do? It's all these like hot flash, all these things. And when you're sharing it, like you have such a positive energy about it. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I mean, it's so critical to, I think, orient yourself towards what you want. And this is just a way to orient towards what you want. And, uh, you know, you understand that sort of like what you believe is what you see, right? And so it's really just challenging those beliefs, those old ideas. And yeah, I'm loving seeing the shift in the culture about this transformation.
Do you think it's a shift to do with also like seeing kind of like this archetype of the wise woman too?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because women in menopause are, like crucial pillars of society because they are making the decisions for their families, the decisions for their parents often. They're, usually have important roles in their workplace. And we have this butterfly effect, right? Like what we do, what we believe, we perpetuate. And so I do think it's just a powerful time in a woman's life.
So beautiful. I love that. So, can you explain a little bit in terms of the body what's happening in a menstrual cycle? And I have to tell you, I don't know if I told you, I've always had like menstrual issues. I don't know if we talked about this. Yeah, it's been like such a struggle for me almost my whole life with like pain and just so much. So I'm like taking in all your positive vibes right now and just like, yeah, tell me all the good things about our periods.
Well, okay, so for women that are not yet in perimenopause, which can start as early as mid 30s, but for most women, it's usually in their early to mid 40s. So for those that are not yet in perimenopause, there's sort of a less intense version of this roller coaster happening every month. So there's two phases to the menstrual cycle. They're called the follicular phase and the luteal phase. And the drama happens in the luteal phase, which is roughly the 2 weeks between ovulation and when you get your period. So after ovulation, we see a rise in both estrogen and progesterone. And then those hormones drop off pretty steeply just before the period. And so estrogen is very deeply involved in serotonin synthesis. It has a big effect on dopamine activity, and it really does shape how the brain processes emotions. So when estrogen's high, emotional regulation is just much more accessible, and sensory input feels more manageable, and the window of tolerance is its widest. And then when it drops off, all that narrows. So the same stressor that felt manageable maybe mid-cycle can feel catastrophic just before the period. And it's not because you're being dramatic. It's because these neurochemicals that act as a buffer are not there. And progesterone's just as important because it tells your brain to settle. And while it's elevated in that mid-luteal phase is when women actually feel their calmest, but then when it drops off those days before the cycle starts, the nervous system is just much more fragile. And again, that window of tolerance really narrows. And it's actually also when the fawn response gets harder to hold and it's much harder to mask. And there's just this irritability that starts to surge. And for a somatic, like for someone that works in somatics, it matters because if your client's in her luteal phase, her trauma response is going to surface more readily, and those body memories are going to be more accessible. And again, the nervous system's just more activated and stuck in that survival response. So this kind of relates to perimenopause because instead of those feelings lasting the few days before the cycle, and perimenopause, it's just a much wilder roller coaster. So we're not necessarily rescued by that estrogen surge, and the pattern gets really unpredictable. Some months the drop is really steep, some months there is no recovery. And it's that predictable rhythm that allowed the nervous system to recover that now is just not there. And so we just end up experiencing those survival states a lot more acutely.
Oh, man, this is so like helpful because I am feeling that. I am about to turn 38 this month, and it feels to me like I've hit this actually. So interesting because we met during this time. And it's making so much sense that all my triggers have been like level 10. The ones that are like, okay, level 6 usually, right? Now they're like level 10. What have you found to be like most supportive around this? Is it just like upping our regulation practices? Are there, what is most helpful to women during these times?
I would say the most helpful thing is understanding that the rhythm is broken and that the more routine our life is, the better we're going to feel, because essentially what we're doing is just building in that predictability. I mean, there's a ton of things that are necessary. Obviously, we need to be fueling properly. We need to be recovering properly. There's a lot of nutrients that are essential through this process. But I would say the most fundamental is creating a routine that incorporates nervous system regulation, because that's the foundation that really sits at the bottom of it all.
I love that. I think also what I love about what you're sharing is that basically our nervous system is like, take a look at all of this. Like, we're not covering it anymore at all. We're not shielding you. Like, you're now at an age where you can handle it. Handle it. Like, all the trauma is like floating to the surface. And you mentioned fawning. Can you talk about like, because fawning or people pleasing, which is a nervous system, I would say combined state of like several states, that is such a big result of childhood trauma. So people who people please, it's kind of funny to me how like in popular psychology, it's like, just say no. And it's like, no, this is a result of a very complex history, and trauma and wounding, and how our nervous system has protected itself.
Mhm.
So how does this look like with perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. So fawning is, first of all, it's hormone dependent. And when we lose the rhythm and regularity of estrogen and progesterone, that fawn response, like you said, people pleasing, it loses its fuel. And so, like you said, my understanding of fawning is that it's not a standalone state. It's an adaptive layer that sits on top those other survival responses, like the fight, flight, freeze. And so when fawning starts to break down, women are, they find themselves flooded with anger and rage that they were able to suppress before because of those hormones being present. Or what also emerges, and this is what happened to me, is that freeze state, that shutdown, that dissociation. And this is when there's just not enough energy left in the system to regulate. And this is, again, where your work is so crucial, because these aren't cognitive problems with cognitive solutions, right? So like a woman in a dorsal vagal freeze can't just, positively think her way out of it. The same way that if you're activated in fight, you can't just tell yourself to calm down. So these states live in the body and need to be met in the body. And I think that's like what you do is you help women with those strategies. But I will say that the best part of the breakdown of the fawn response is that in menopause, women find the courage to tell the whole truth instead of the edited version. And truth is really prioritized over people pleasing. And there's one thing that I heard recently about the fawn response that I'd love your take on. So it was basically this theory for why men seek out younger women in midlife. And it's not so much, or not just that they are attracted to the youth and the beauty. It's that there's this consistent ability to fawn and meet their needs. And that women in midlife, they just can't do that anymore. And more than that, they just don't want to.
Man, I think that is so accurate. That is so accurate. I think, Natasha, this is so fascinating. We're talking about this because I swear, like in the last few months, in connection with like all the Epstein file stuff, like all that, like so many women are like, enough, like we're done with this. And I happen to have a lot of friends in their 60s, which is really cool, and even 70s and 80s. And they're just like badasses. They're like, nope, don't care. I'm done. My boobs are saggy. Don't care. Love my body. Don't put up with shit. Like, it's so amazing. It's so inspiring to me. And it makes so much sense what you're saying. Like, they're just like done with it. And it's such a powerful, like, cool archetype of like, I don't care about these standards. I don't care to be this little girl who's like a good girl and pleasing everybody. Like, I'm done with that.
Agreed. It's a liberation for sure.
I bet you're feeling it too. And I think that's such a brilliant theory about like it's very sad, but there's also, yeah, this fetish around youth. And what's really like the depth of it, so much has been written about this lately that I really appreciate. I think the depth of it is like pleasing and like giving men, but also like everybody, right? Giving somebody else what they want and like neglecting our own needs and desires. And one of my favorite educators and therapists is actually, he's a man, Terry Real. He's a feminist therapist. Yeah, so good. And he talks a lot about how when we do that in relationships, basically people leave. Like people end up leaving because even though these men are like with these younger women, right? That kind of put up with everything about them. Over time, they get bored because they're not with a real human. Like that's boring. Like at the end of the day, I was talking about this with a client yesterday about emotions and how scary they are and unpredictable. And when we've had like very chaotic childhoods, we like look for that predictability. But the truth is, like, we want that depth. Like, we want that like real human connection. And it is a little chaotic, right? And unpredictable, but it is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. So tell me what it means. This is something you talk about. that our nervous system is under renovation and perimenopause. What does that mean?
Okay, so over the past couple years, I've been learning about how the brain actually operates as a prediction machine. So predictive processing is what it's called, and it's a neuroscientific framework that explains how the brain is continuously generating and refining predictions about what the world is and our bodies rather than simply just reacting to incoming sensory data. So basically, what it means is that every sensation, every emotion, every thought you have is your brain's prediction of what is probably true. And when those predictions are wrong, which they refer to as prediction errors, the brain adapts. And then often it feels some symptoms during that adaptation. So we might feel a little bit like something's off. And so in perimenopause, our system is completely flooded by these prediction errors because for 3 decades, the brain's built a precise internal model around those hormones. So it knew its rhythms and its effects and it relied on them. And now, when these hormones are in such great flux, the brain registers much more surprise in ordinary situations. And that's experienced sort of disproportionately like anxiety or sensory overwhelm. And it often feels too like just a big reduction in capacity. So you can't think clearly and your tolerance to stress really plummets. And we often call this brain fog. But brain fog really isn't just bad memory. It's what happens when these prediction errors are so frequent that the brain can't efficiently filter what matters from what doesn't. And so when that filtering breaks down, decision making gets hard, focus really scatters, like task initiation stalls out, and we just see a real reduction in executive function and much more of that dysregulation. So essentially, perimenopause is just this extreme experience of unpredictability, which the brain doesn't like and is struggling to adapt to.
Wow, I feel like you've just described my life. And how do we love that? Because I think part of it is like acceptance. How do we love that? And how do we, because I think I spent so much time fighting it.
Uh,
Yeah. And how do we work with it?
Honestly, learning about this has been one of the most empowering things for me because I realized something that I intuitively sensed that what I'm anticipating, what I'm expecting is what I'm creating in some way, in a great way actually. And so it's just redefining and reorienting and recognizing that again, the brain loves this prediction. And the more we can facilitate and help that, the smoother the whole experience is.
And that's by creating routines.
Exactly. Exactly.
Can you give us an example? Is this like a routine with like, I don't know, journaling and practices and food and exercise?
I think it's all of those things. And I do think it's obviously like everything in life, very individual. And it's taken me a number of years to identify my rhythm. So it's everything from what time you wake up, what you do when you wake up. For example, getting morning light really sets our circadian rhythm. That's huge. Making sure that when we wake up, we are, creating that nervous system regulated state. So doing whether that's meditation or breath exercise or prayer, whatever works. I personally do love to journal in the morning. I do that. And then it's like eating at the same time, moving at the same time, you know, being outside as often as possible. And just, again, figuring out who around you regulates you and then making sure you're spending more time with those individuals. And all of this takes time because our needs are always also shifting, but it's just having the intention to pay attention, right? And just to notice, how do I feel after that? And then adjusting as necessary.
That's so beautiful. I feel like when we're younger, we are always adjusting to the world.
You got it.
And then suddenly it's like a switch. Like now like the world needs to adjust to us in some kind of way in after perimenopause. And what's hitting me so hard in what you're saying is like my ability to be with uncertainty is just so decreased. Like, oh my God, it's just, yeah, it's very, very triggering to me.
I relate immensely. My capacity, that was really the biggest shift for me, was how much that shrank the last few years. And I've had to make a lot of changes in my life. Like I had to change, my work schedule. Luckily, I have that ability, but I had to shift sort of, when I did what in order to adapt to it. So again, what you're saying is, very true and real, but it's also okay.
Yeah, I'm so grateful you're saying that. I feel like intuitively, this is not research based, but I feel like people who are highly sensitive and have spent like most of their life operating and being productive and just being able to push through, which was me, they can't do it anymore at that stage. Like they just can't, right? And then it's like, oh, like this is who I actually am. And maybe that's also kind of a breakdown of fawning, because part of fawning is I'm always adapting to, like, this is the patriarchy. This is how things work. We're all productive, right? All these things. And then suddenly it's like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Like I've been working way less. My workouts are shorter. All my rules, and this is coming from my trauma. I had so many food rules that were insane. Like you have to fast in the morning. No way. Like all these things. It's so interesting. Like I'm just like, no, like my body is like a no to them.
That's it. It all adds up with what's going on hormonally and in the brain. And those are
so validating.
Crucial changes to make.
This is so validating. So you also talk about issues in our tissues, which is very cute. Tell us more. Tell us more about that.
Well, you alluded to this actually earlier. So throughout our lives, we have experiences that carry obviously an enormous amount of emotional charge that we don't always have the skills or the time or the awareness to process. And so these emotions are known as implicit memory, and they're imprinted and stored in the body, and they're sometimes referred to as issues in our tissues. And so in perimenopause, what happens is the connective tissue and bones undergo really significant structural changes. And so estrogen receptors, which exist throughout our tendons and our ligaments, our muscles and our bone, when that hormone starts to decline, these tissues really remodel, and women do report a big surge of somatic memories and emotional activation. And that really correlates with some of these structural changes. And it's emotions that were held beneath the surface really emerge because we just don't have the hormones to quiet them anymore, to suppress them. And so now the body's just being called to do what it's always wanted to do, which is process them, right? And the somatics is so crucial.
Wow, fascinating. I just keep thinking, and I have to ask you, why is this information not everywhere?
I really hope that changes. Yeah, I mean, menopause has been like in the closet for up until really the last year or 2 years or 3 years, not long. And so, yeah, I think that more and more we'll see a big shift in the culture and how this is reflected on.
This is, Natasha, this is so validating for me, like personally, and I'm sure many people listening. So thank you. Why is perimenopause called puberty 2.0? That's scary. Tell us why.
It's funny. You kind of answered this already too. So because it's a wild roller coaster, that's mainly why, but with some really crucial, important differences. So in puberty 1.0, we learn who we are by orienting towards others, right? We learn by mimicking, we imitate because our brains are wired for that social mirroring and that belonging. And often that comes at a price of knowing ourselves. So puberty 2.0 is when we orient back towards ourselves. So it's a time to focus on how we feel rather than how we look. And at this stage, we just have a much better sense of what we need, what we want, and just as importantly, what we don't want. And what we don't want is what I like to call the fuck it bucket. I hope it's okay that I swore, but it's
Yeah.
it's just where we throw out what no longer serves us, right? So it's like junk thoughts and bad habits and unfulfilling relationships and just any ideas that impede our transformation.
That is so good. It's like, it's so nuanced and complex from what I'm hearing. Like I think if our society was better, this would be the most fun time of our lives. Really, it's just our fucked up society.
Yeah, 'cause we definitely, our culture, it does reward women that look young, right? And we're responsible for perpetuating that just as much as men are. And yeah,
Totally.
I'd love to see that shift.
Oh, me too. And you just mentioned junk thoughts. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so junk thoughts are the ones that tell you suck and make you feel terrible after you overindulge in them, just like junk food. And so truly, like, no hormone, no medication, no supplement can change the way you talk to yourself. That is a decision. And it's at this stage of life where self-compassion is just the most critical. I know that's a big thing that you teach, because, self-compassion, it's an active practice. It's something we do, not something we have. And so when we practice that self-compassion, we become self-compassionate. And when we practice criticism and consume a lot of junk thoughts, that's what we turn into essentially. So it's really an important time, I think, to just audit, like, what are we saying to ourselves? Because again, that's going to shape our experience.
That is fast. I can't. You're blowing my mind. In my 20s, I discovered mindful self-compassion, which is what I teach also. And it doesn't come from me. It comes from Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer. And it's like a very science-based methodology to become more self-compassionate. And I remember, like, I took the quiz. There's a quiz for how compassionate you are. And I scored really poorly. And then I was doing the practices. And then it really shifted for many years, even without continuing to practice. And after 35, I would say in the last year or two, I have felt such a regression. It's so fascinating. And I have to actively pay attention. It's like something happened in my brain, and I have to, and it even affected my confidence in my work, which is so weird because I developed this very deep confidence in my work. And suddenly I was like, what am I doing? I'm not sure, very interesting. And I have had to really go back to the practices, which I teach them and they work. So I should, right?
It completely makes sense because, like I said, I do think all of those tools, and it's so great that you've been practicing up until now because you have them at your disposal, and it's just refining them and just updating also your expectations of sort of who and what you are.
Absolutely. I feel like it's such a phase of acceptance, very deep, very, very deep acceptance of who we are. So you are a naturopath and you believe the body can heal itself. I think I've shared with you that I used to be a nutrition coach and I was teaching whole food, plant-based nutrition. And I totally believe the body can heal itself. How do you feel about that now?
Yeah, so it's a tenet of naturopathic medicine that the body has this innate ability to heal itself, which is what really drew me to the practice. And I believed it pretty unquestionably in the early stages of my practice. But what I realized over time is that there is a point in life where the body's ability to regenerate is outpaced by the wear and tear of aging. And it's one of the reasons I think menopause is so important because it's a time where we can still make a very significant impact on our future health before it gets harder. Because the longer we wait to sort of fortify and to do this work, the harder it becomes to regenerate and the harder it becomes to regulate. And so I just believe we need to listen to the body's whispers before they become those loud screams. And menopause, it really is. It's just this great opportunity to influence our future health.
Yes. I mean, so what I'm hearing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you still believe in this, but you also believe that the earlier we start, the better. And we also have to keep practicing and keep like fortifying that ability. It doesn't just happen by like
Right.
breathing.
That's it. Exactly. I think, I kind of naively believed that it was just the default setting and that's what happened. But it's an active practice again, right? And it takes just much more resources and effort to do that as we age. So I still believe it. I just feel it needs to be adapted as we get older.
That makes a lot of sense. And like knowing the nervous system, it is like going to the gym. Like it's like if somebody says, you know what? I'm just gonna sit in my chair and I'm gonna grow muscle. Like, no.
I wish.
I want to say that would be nice, but being Eastern European, I'm like, no, I need to suffer to grow my muscle.
I really
You get it. You get it. You get it. Yes, yes. Now I'm in Costa Rica and I'm soaking in simple joy. Like there is just it's so funny. I don't know if you've seen that reel on Instagram that just cracked me up. This woman was talking about how Latin culture and Eastern European culture are so similar, except she's like, when I watch the sunset, I'm sitting there, I'm watching the sunset. I'm like, well, how did I suffer to deserve the sunset? I have to reflect on this. And my friends here are like, oh my God, sunset, how amazing. Like, who cares?
that is so funny.
It's
So
so
true.
true. It's
Yeah.
so true, right? I like, me too. Me too. Those are my sunset thoughts. You talk about the role of entertainment during menopause. Tell us about this.
So it's actually entrainment.
Oh, entrainment.
Yeah. And so entrainment is this amazing concept, which is how we and all living things synchronize with the world around us through cycles and vibration. And so when two objects of similar vibration are in close proximity, the object of the weaker vibration will match to the object of the stronger vibration. And that's how we all connect. And as humans, we're affected by all kinds of cycles like day and night, which is the circadian rhythm, the moon, the seasons, and then even just our appetites run on a cycle, our digestion runs on a cycle, our sleep, our heartbeat, our breathing, and we feel our best when we are in harmony. And so, as this menstrual cycle really loses its rhythm, we really just need to connect to these other beats, right? To stay in harmony. So this is again why I just feel like these routines are so important because they replace what progesterone used to do, which is help the brain feel safe and settled. And so now you create this safety through external structure. So that consistent sleep, consistent mealtime, predictable movement, the morning light, they just serve as anchor points and reduce what I was referring to earlier as those prediction errors. So routine just frees up our cognitive resources to be able to do everything else. And I do think, kind of most importantly, we need to sync with women we admire and respect because their energy will harmonize and amplify us, which is the experience you described with these older women, right? And that building that strong community during this transition it makes this transformation not just bearable, but like very enriching. So yeah, I love the concept of entrainment for that reason.
That's so cool. And yeah, co-regulation. Is that the same as it's the same?
Exactly. It's like that co-regulation is a version of entrainment. Yeah.
Okay. So there's many different ways, and that's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's so true. I can't even tell you, like, I can sit here in my house and do like all the self-regulation practices. And there's nothing like talking to my people. Like, I mean, there's nothing like it. And I mean, I'm guessing you would get this as an fellow Eastern European. Like, we're so taught to like mistrust and not show ourselves and be very controlled. more than controlling, I feel controlled, like from the
Mhm.
inside, and like kind of like holding everything together and being perfect and like suppressing everything. And even last night, I called a really good girlfriend of mine, fully triggered, like crying and triggered. And like within minutes, we were laughing, And
Mhm.
she's like, "Is this what I sound like when I've been saying it?" I'm like, "Yeah, yes, we're all the same, okay?" So I love it.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, that laughter is like a really good example of that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does somatic work fit into all of this during menopause?
Okay. So, yeah, so I think it's somatic work, like I've said, is just vital. And self-care in menopause, it can't just be nutrition, which is super important. I mean, anyone paying attention to menopause has heard how important protein is, how important fiber is. We understand we need to sleep. We understand we need to do resistance training. But I think, again, at the most fundamental, we need nervous system regulation, because without that, nothing else works as well as it should. We don't digest as well. We don't sleep as well, etc. So it's really just recognizing that, when we're in this survival state, we have to use these tools. And I think for many women, self-care is still confused with being selfish. But what I think is worth considering is that every person is half of every relationship, right? And so when you ask a woman what matters most to them, they almost always say their relationships, right? And when you don't take care of yourself and your nervous system, the people that love you worry about you, and that amplifies their stress, whether they tell you that or not. And so I kind of believe self-care is just the greatest act of love for those you care about, because it liberates some of that stress about you, right? And so I just think we all need this work, and the sooner we learn it, the freer we will be. And yeah, the nervous system can be educated at any age, at any stage. And for many women, this is the first time in their lives that they've been given permission to come home to their bodies. And then what emerges from that is just so special. And I think your work has helped me in that, and can help so many other women.
Oh, I love this so much, and I feel so grateful to know you and like the reciprocity between us. I mean, you've given me so much from knowing you, and it's just so brilliant. I feel so validated right now. I can't even. It's really cool. So thank you for everything you shared. It was fascinating. I have like a million people I want to send this to. And how can people work with you?
So I practice in Ontario, and our regulations are pretty strict in that I can really only take on patients that live in my province. But I do have a website called metamorphosis.ca, and I just use that platform to post a lot of these ideas. So it's just a place where I share what I'm learning. There is an option to like just sign up for a newsletter, and I don't sell anything. It's just I'll send you the content sort of as it comes out. So you're kind of on top of it all. I am on Instagram kind of reluctantly, and I would say half-heartedly, and
We need you.
I am there. And then if you happen to be in Ontario, then my practice is called Proactive Healthcare, and I've got a website for that as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to honestly thank you again from the bottom of my heart, because yeah, like I said, it's been just one of the most valuable experiences to learn this work. And I now talk about it with every single patient. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And I'm spreading the word.
Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you. Thank you. And I love
Thank
you.
you. I love you too.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. And In this episode, Natasha mentioned my group program, which she is part of, called the Unburdened Heart, and all of the amazing benefits that she received from being part of this group, from practicing somatic practices and skills in real time, and having these tools to navigate life. And so this is your invitation to join us. This program is currently open for enrollment. And it is so incredible to just practice these tools in a group, because they are not just in your mind. They are not just information. These tools literally shift the way you show up everywhere in your relationships, in your relationship with yourself, where you start to actually be yourself and start to build meaningful connections that actually feel deep and real, where you are showing up as you. So if you feel ready to show up as yourself, I know that can be scary. Just know that somatics is here for you to support that in such a soft, gentle way where it doesn't feel so scary anymore. It doesn't feel so uncomfortable, and you actually can do it. Like, you can stay with the discomfort of not people pleasing and fixing and all these behaviors, and actually speak your needs, speak your truth, express your emotions, and connect in a very real way. The Unburdened Heart is open for enrollment. All the information is going to be in the show notes, and I really hope you join us. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to this episode. If you liked it, please make sure to leave me a review so that more beautiful humans can get to this podcast, and subscribe to the show. And please do share it with a friend who would benefit. And I always love to hear from all of you on Instagram, so visit me there at marina.y.t. I share really awesome content and would love to hear your comments about the episodes. Until next time, I love you so much and I appreciate you. Have the most beautiful day.